Ladies, it's time to end the era of being the good girl who always says yes. We've been conditioned to believe that being agreeable makes us lovable, that saying yes keeps the peace, and that putting others first is a virtue. But here's the truth. Constantly saying yes to everyone else often means saying no to yourself. From a young age, many girls are taught that being agreeable is a virtue, that to be good means to be obedient, accommodating, and always pleasant. This message comes subtly, sometimes even sweetly. Smile more, don't be too loud, be helpful, be nice. Over time, this conditioning molds a behavior pattern where saying yes becomes automatic and saying no feels like rebellion. But beneath this socially praised role lies a painful truth, the loss of authenticity. When you always say yes to others, you often say no to yourself. You silence your own preferences, your own desires, even your own discomforts, in order to maintain the illusion of being easy to be around. It starts small, agreeing to plans you don't enjoy, accepting tasks when you're exhausted, pretending to be okay when you're not. But it builds. And what you're left with isn't a life that belongs to you, it's a version of you built entirely for the comfort of others. The betrayal begins quietly. At first you may not even realize it. You just want to help. You want to be kind, you want to be loved. And in doing so, you keep handing out pieces of yourself. But eventually you start to feel hollow, unseen, misunderstood. Because the world only knows the version of you that never complains, never resists, and never takes up space. And that version, it's not the full you. It's a mask. Self-betrayal becomes a habit wrapped in politeness. You bite your tongue during conversations where you want to speak. You laugh off comments that actually sting. You say it's fine when deep down, it isn't. You feel the tension in your chest, the lump in your throat, but still, you say yes. And with every unspoken truth, you drift further from your own center, from your power, from your truth. What's dangerous is that this way of living is often praised. You're told you're such a good friend, so easygoing, the sweetest person. But beneath those compliments is a heavy price, your emotional health. You're overextended, overwhelmed, and underappreciated. People begin to expect your compliance. And worse, they stop checking in to see if you're actually okay with what you're agreeing to. Why? Because you always say yes. This good girl persona can become a cage. It limits your voice, your choices, and your freedom. You find yourself hesitating to express disagreement, scared that someone will be disappointed or upset. You walk on eggshells just to keep the peace. And the saddest part is, you convince yourself that this is who you truly are. Agreeable, quiet, accommodating. But it's not who you are. It's who you've been trained to be. Underneath the people-pleasing is someone who longs to be heard. Someone who has opinions, passions, boundaries, and dreams. Someone who is capable of saying no, of walking away, of standing up. That version of you is not bad. She's not rude. She's not selfish. She's real. And the moment you let her speak, you begin the process of reclaiming your self-worth. Reclaiming your voice after years of self-betrayal isn't easy. It feels uncomfortable. Guilt shows up. Fear whispers. But you have to remember that every time you honor your truth, even in small moments, you are teaching yourself that you matter, that your boundaries deserve respect. And slowly, the habit of betrayal turns into the habit of self-respect. The good girl who always says yes may be applauded by the world, but she is often abandoned by herself. The question is, how long are you willing to betray your own needs just to keep a fragile peace? How long will you shrink yourself in the name of approval? There comes a moment when being liked isn't enough. When being true becomes the only thing that feels right. Saying no is one of the most powerful acts of self-respect a person can practice. Yet, for many women raised to please, to accommodate, and to be agreeable, saying no feels unnatural, even wrong. We fear being seen as difficult, rude, or selfish. But at its core, Saying no isn't about rejection. It's about recognition of your time, your energy, your values, and your emotional bandwidth. When you say no, you are drawing a line that protects what matters to you. You are making a conscious choice to honor your priorities instead of stretching yourself to meet everyone else's. And that's not cruelty, that's clarity. The more you value yourself, the more you'll begin to understand that not every opportunity, request, or invitation deserves your yes. There's an emotional cost to always saying yes. Overcommitting leads to burnout. Overextending leads to resentment. When you constantly ignore your own limits just to accommodate others, you're sending yourself a dangerous message that your needs don't matter, that other people's comfort is more important than your well-being. But when you say no, you disrupt that pattern. You say, I matter too. Saying no also sends a message to others. I have boundaries. I have limits. I am not endlessly available. People may not always like it, especially if they've benefited from your compliance. But your no teaches them how to treat you. It teaches them to ask, not assume. It teaches them that your presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. And that's a lesson worth giving. There is a deep sense of relief that comes with a firm, unapologetic no. It clears space in your life. It gives you room to breathe. It opens the door to better choices. Because when you're not buried under guilt-driven yeses, you're free to say yes to what truly serves your growth. Your no makes space for the real aligned yeses, the ones that come from a place of desire, not obligation. Saying no doesn't mean you're cold or uncaring. It means you're conscious. It means you no longer betray yourself for the sake of being liked. It means you're brave enough to disappoint others instead of disappointing yourself. That's not selfish, that's sacred. Your time, your peace, your energy are not infinite resources. They deserve protection. At first, saying no might feel awkward. You may over-explain, second-guess, or even feel guilty. That's normal. But with practice, no becomes easier, cleaner, stronger. You begin to see that your no doesn't need a backstory. You don't owe anyone a justification for taking care of your emotional and mental well-being. No thank you is complete. Full stop. What's empowering is that each time you say no with confidence, you reclaim a little more of your voice. You get to choose your boundaries instead of waiting for others to draw them for you. You become the author of your own time, your own decisions, your own life. And that kind of power is what transforms a people pleaser into a self-respecting woman. No is not rejection, it's redirection. It's you stepping into your worth. It's a declaration that you trust yourself enough to protect your space. Because self-respect doesn't begin with other people treating you right. It begins with you treating yourself right, even when it's uncomfortable. People-pleasing is often mistaken for kindness. It looks like generosity. It sounds like politeness. It feels like love. But it isn't. At its root, people-pleasing isn't born from genuine connection. It's born from fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of conflict. Fear of being seen as less than perfect. And when fear is driving your actions, you're no longer acting from love. You're acting from survival. When you say yes to avoid someone's disappointment, you're not loving them. You're protecting yourself from the discomfort of their reaction. When you apologize for something that's not your fault, you're not being considerate. You're trying to prevent someone from pulling away. When you sacrifice your boundaries so no one gets upset, it's not compassion. It's self-erasure disguised as empathy. This is the uncomfortable truth. People-pleasing is a strategy, not sincerity. It's a learned behavior. One that often stems from childhood environments where love felt conditional. Maybe you were rewarded for being good or punished for speaking up. Over time, you learned that being agreeable made you safer, and you carried that survival skill into adulthood, where it began to look like love. But it's not. It's a coping mechanism. When you please others at the expense of yourself, you're operating from a place of scarcity, believing that your worth is fragile and must be maintained by keeping others happy. That if someone is upset with you, you are in danger of losing their affection, their respect, or their presence. And so you bend, you shrink, you mold yourself into whatever version you think will be accepted. But love, true love, doesn't demand that you betray yourself. It doesn't require you to suppress your needs or silence your voice. Real love, whether romantic, platonic, or familial, makes room for your truth. It honors your no. It welcomes your boundaries. If someone only loves you when you're agreeable, that isn't love. It's control, cloaked in expectation. The more you people please, the more you lose touch with who you actually are. You become so busy managing how others feel that you forget to check in with your own emotions. You find yourself in relationships where you're exhausted, underappreciated, and confused because you're giving so much, yet still feel unseen. That's because what you're offering isn't the real you, it's a performance. Fear teaches you to be small, to avoid confrontation, to say yes when your soul is screaming no. But courage teaches you to trust yourself, to risk being misunderstood, to stand firm in your truth, even if it makes someone uncomfortable. That shift from fear to courage is what turns people-pleasing into self-honoring. You're not here to be everyone's comfort zone. You're not here to constantly regulate other people's emotions. You are allowed to upset people. You're allowed to disappoint them. Because their comfort is not your responsibility, your integrity is. And the more you choose truth over approval, the stronger and more rooted you become. People-pleasing may feel like love on the surface, but it leaves you empty underneath. Because real love doesn't ask you to disappear. It invites you to show up, fully, freely, and fearlessly. And only when you release the fear of not being liked can you begin to experience the freedom of being fully loved. You were not put on this earth to prove your value through suffering. Yet so many women have been taught that their worth must be earned, not just once, but over and over again, through acts of selflessness, silence, and service. It's the unspoken belief that if you sacrifice enough, give enough, or endure enough, then maybe, just maybe, you'll be worthy of love, respect, or belonging. But you don't have to earn what you already are. Worth is not something you hustle for. It's something you have by existing. You don't become more valuable when you overextend yourself. And you don't become less valuable when you say no, rest, or take up space. You are already enough, fully, completely, unconditionally, whether others recognize it or not. Self-sacrifice has been glorified for generations, especially for women. The more you give, the more you're praised. The more you endure, the more you're admired. But beneath the applause is often a woman who is tired, unseen, and quietly breaking. Sacrificing your needs, your time, your dreams, just to be deemed worthy. It's not noble. It's a slow erosion of your identity. Every time you put yourself last to keep someone else first, you send yourself a message. I'm not as important. That message builds over time. It becomes the voice in your head that says you have to do more to be loved, to be chosen, to be safe. It becomes the inner critic that never lets you rest, the guilt that creeps in whenever you do something just for you. That voice isn't truth. It's conditioning. You do not have to overfunction in relationships to deserve connection. You do not have to prove your value by being everything to everyone. The people who are meant for you will not require you to diminish yourself. They will see your worth without needing you to bleed for it. They will honor your boundaries, not test them. They will celebrate your fullness, not just your sacrifices. Real love doesn't ask you to abandon yourself. It doesn't demand that you pour from an empty cup. You were not created to be a reservoir for other people's needs while ignoring your own. Worth isn't a reward for suffering, it's your birthright. And any love that depends on you losing yourself is not love. It's manipulation wearing a kind face. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to receive. You are allowed to say, I matter too. That doesn't make you selfish, it makes you balanced. Healthy relationships are built on reciprocity, not martyrdom. If you are the only one giving, fixing, or accommodating, it's not a partnership, it's a performance. And you were not born to perform for love. There's a dangerous narrative that says, being a good woman means being endlessly available. That saying yes is a virtue. That pleasing others is your purpose. But the truth is, you were never meant to disappear behind your good deeds. You were meant to thrive, to take up space, to pursue joy without guilt, to live your life without needing anyone's permission to do so. You are not here to earn your worth. You are here to embody it. And the moment you stop tying your value to what you do for others, you begin the process of reclaiming yourself, your time, your voice, your joy. You are not a product of your sacrifices. You are a person, deeply worthy, just as you are. Boundaries are often misunderstood, especially by those who benefit from you not having any. We're taught that setting limits means shutting people out, being cold, or acting selfishly. But that's a lie, a damaging one. The truth is, boundaries are not walls to keep people away. They are bridges to healthier relationships. They are how you protect your peace, your energy, and your emotional well-being. A boundary is not a punishment. It is a declaration, this is what I can hold, this is where I end and you begin. When you set boundaries, you're not rejecting others, you're respecting yourself. You're drawing a line not because you don't care, but because you do. You care enough about the relationship to define what keeps it respectful, safe, and mutual. Many people feel guilty for setting boundaries because they've been conditioned to believe that their value lies in their availability. Always being accessible, always saying yes, always stretching beyond their limits. It becomes a way to prove love. But love without limits isn't love. It's codependency, it's control, and it often leads to resentment, exhaustion, and emotional disconnection. Boundaries are a form of clarity. They teach people how to treat you. They let others know what's acceptable and what's not. And most importantly, they teach you what you're no longer willing to tolerate. When you hold a boundary, you're telling yourself, I am worthy of protection. I deserve to feel safe and respected in every space I enter. The resistance to boundaries often comes from fear. Fear of being misunderstood, fear of losing someone, fear of seeming too much or too difficult. But if someone walks away because you set a boundary, they were only ever committed to your compliance, not your well-being. People who love and respect you will honor your boundaries, not challenge them. You're not selfish for saying, I'm not available right now. You're not wrong for needing space, time, or emotional distance. You're not harsh for deciding what energy you allow into your life. That is your right, and you don't need to explain, defend, or apologize for exercising that right. Boundaries are not demands, they're decisions. Personal, intentional, and essential. Healthy boundaries don't hurt relationships, they strengthen them. They remove confusion, they reduce resentment, they prevent emotional burnout. When both people are clear about what they need and where they stand, the connection becomes more honest, more secure, more balanced. There's no guessing, no walking on eggshells, no silent suffering. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow, what you stop, and what you reinforce. If you don't set boundaries, you give others permission to cross them. If you stay silent, you become complicit in your own discomfort. The truth is, no one will protect your peace for you. That's your job, and you have every right to do it. unapologetically. The world may not celebrate your boundaries, but your soul will. Each time you say no to what drains you, you say yes to what nourishes you. Each time you protect your space, your spirit grows stronger. Boundaries are not barriers to love. They are evidence that you finally love yourself enough to choose peace over pleasing. Assertiveness is often mistaken for arrogance, especially when it comes from women. Society has conditioned many to believe that a woman should be soft-spoken, agreeable, and accommodating. Anything else is labeled as too much, too bold, or too aggressive. But there is nothing arrogant about being clear, confident, and direct about your needs. Assertiveness is not a flaw. It's a form of inner strength. To be assertive means to honor your voice, not just internally, but publicly. It's the ability to say what you mean without shrinking, to speak your truth without apology, and to make decisions that align with your values. It's standing tall in rooms where you were once expected to stay quiet. That's not arrogance. That's self-respect in action. Arrogance seeks to elevate the self by putting others down. Assertiveness, on the other hand, seeks mutual respect. It doesn't need to dominate or control. It simply says, I know who I am, and I am not afraid to express it. Assertive people don't need to overpower. They only need to be honest. They are grounded, not grandiose. Many women struggle with assertiveness because they've been conditioned to believe that silence is safer than truth. They've learned to sugarcoat, to soften, to delay their own needs for the sake of harmony. But harmony that costs you your voice isn't real peace, it's repression. And repression always comes with a cost: inner frustration, regret, and eventually resentment. Being assertive doesn't mean being confrontational, it means being clear. It means communicating boundaries, desires, and limits with honesty and dignity. It means expressing disagreement without hostility. It's not about being right, it's about being real. And that level of authenticity can only come from someone who values themselves deeply. Assertiveness is how you advocate for yourself in a world that often teaches you to doubt yourself. It's a tool you use to ask for what you deserve, to challenge what's unjust, and to lead without needing permission. It's how you stop apologizing for existing and start owning your place at the table, whether anyone offers you a seat or not. There will always be people who are uncomfortable with your assertiveness, especially if they've grown used to your compliance. They may call you difficult, intimidating, or too much, but their discomfort is not your problem to fix. You are not responsible for shrinking yourself to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. When you embrace your assertiveness, you begin to take control of your own narrative. You stop waiting for others to validate your opinions. You stop second-guessing your instincts. You begin to move with clarity, conviction, and courage. And you attract people who respect you, not just people who want to use you. The world doesn't need more women who are afraid to speak up. It needs more women who are unapologetically assertive, who understand that their voice is powerful, their thoughts are valid, and their presence has weight. Assertiveness is not a threat. It is a reflection of strength. And every woman deserves to embody that strength without shame. From a young age, many women are taught to prioritize the feelings of others above their own. To be liked, to be accepted, to be good. You're expected to bite your tongue, soften your words, and never make anyone uncomfortable, even if it means betraying your own truth. Over time, this becomes second nature. But the cost is steep. You lose your voice trying to preserve someone else's comfort. When you constantly tiptoe around other people's expectations, you begin to abandon your own identity. You downplay your accomplishments so others don't feel insecure. You suppress your opinions to avoid conflict. You stay silent when you want to scream just to keep the peace. But peace that requires your silence isn't peace. It's self-denial. Living for others' comfort trains you to become hyper-aware of how everyone else feels, while becoming increasingly disconnected from yourself. You learn to anticipate reactions, adjust your tone, and censor your truth, not out of consideration but out of fear. Fear of being too much, fear of being judged, fear of being left. So you shrink, and in that shrinking, you vanish from your own life. The more you make space for everyone else's comfort, the less room there is for your own growth. You end up molding yourself into whatever version of you makes other people feel safest. But when your identity becomes a performance, it's impossible to feel real connection, because nobody knows the real you. Your truth may be inconvenient for others. It may disrupt their assumptions. It may challenge their comfort zones. But that's not your burden to carry. You were not born to play a background role in someone else's script. Your voice, your truth, your story, they matter, even if they make someone else uncomfortable. There is nothing noble about self-silencing. It doesn't make you stronger. It makes you invisible. It doesn't make you more loving. It makes you more resentful. Over time, the pressure to keep others comfortable builds into quiet bitterness. Not because you're unkind, but because you've ignored your truth for too long. You can't honor your truth and serve someone else's illusions at the same time. One has to go. And when you choose their comfort over your clarity, you teach yourself that your truth isn't worthy of expression. But when you begin to speak honestly, even shakily, even imperfectly, you begin to reclaim your voice and your life. There will be discomfort in speaking your truth. That's unavoidable. But discomfort is not damage. Disagreement is not danger. When you allow yourself to be fully seen, even if it ruffles feathers, you begin to attract people who see you, not just who benefit from your silence. That's where real intimacy begins, in truth, not performance. Living for others' comfort may keep the room quiet, but it keeps your soul in chaos. Your truth deserves air, space, and sound. Not every truth will be welcomed, but every truth deserves to be spoken. You do not need to make everyone comfortable to be worthy.